They cut through my fence with a chainsaw while I was lying in a hospital bed. And when I came home, still stitched from emergency surgery, I found sawdust scattered across my ranch like breadcrumbs from a crime. But before I tell you what I did, you need to understand where this all began. The land I stand on isn't just dirt and grass. It's memory. It's the sound of a rusty gate creaking open before sunrise. It's the crunch of gravel under boots when the air is so cold it stings your teeth. My family has worked this place for 4 generations. Long before the Homeowners Association even existed, long before developers pushed their neat little cul-de-sacs against our fences, this ranch was here. When I was a kid, you could walk all morning and still not hit the boundary. The soundtrack of life wasn't cars or leaf blowers. It was cattle moving slow through cottonwoods, a tractor in the distance, coyotes at night. My father taught me how to set a post straight, how to hear a storm coming just by the way swallows cut the air. My mother, she had a sixth sense for the land. She could be washing dishes, glance out the window and say, "That calf's coming breech." And she'd be right. We didn't need apps or alerts. We had the land. I had a little sister too, stubborn as any mule we ever owned. When we were kids, we'd race down the section road, throwing rocks at the creek. She always beat me, always laughed, always told me, "Try again, slowpoke." I think that was her way of living, try again, no matter what. That ranch, it was our heartbeat, and that heartbeat was steady until the day the survey flags showed up. I still remember neon pink lines slashed across the prairie like open wounds. I was home from college, stacking hay bales, trying to prove I hadn't gotten soft. My dad sat in the barn's shade, rubbing his bad knee. He squinted at those flags and muttered, "They're putting in a planned community." He said planned like it tasted wrong. It started with trucks and noise, then the dirt roads became perfect grids. Streets named after trees that don't even grow here, maple, cedar, birch. And soon came the signs, model homes, tour available, clubhouse and pool. At first we kept to ourselves, but then came Karen. I don't like to use names, but if you knew her, you'd call her that too. Hair like straw, sunglasses that never came off, even indoors. She showed up at our driveway one hot afternoon, clipboard in hand, smile wide but empty. "I'm the president of the Homeowners Association," she said like it was an honor. My mom wiped her hands on her jeans and told her plainly, "We're not part of the HOA." Karen didn't miss a beat. "Not yet," she said. "But joining would benefit you. Shared resources, snow removal, trash services. We've even been maintaining your road." Our road, my dad cut in, 2 words heavy as a gavel. I almost laughed when she said maintaining. That road, we filled the potholes ourselves year after year. My dad with a shovel, me with a bucket, no one else. But that's how they operated, talk fast, talk confident, and hope you flinch. We didn't. Karen's smile tightened. "There's also the matter of your north fence. Our survey shows it encroaches on HOA property." Encroaches, that's the word she used. I'll never forget the look in my mom's eyes, flat, cold. She pointed straight at the fence line. "That's been our boundary for 50 years. County plats confirm it. Your builder's plan matches it." Karen shuffled her clipboard like it might rewrite history for her. Then she tried another angle. "Our bylaws require uniform fencing and pedestrian access easements." My dad hooked his thumbs in his belt and said dryly, "We're not in your HOA, and our cattle don't do pedestrians." Karen didn't laugh, just made a note on her clipboard and left. That was the beginning. Not fireworks, not a fight. Just a woman with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, carrying a clipboard that never stopped coming back. Flyers in the mailbox, strangers at the gate, men in polos talking about community standards while staring at our hay bales like they were trash. Requests to pave our road, to match their white fences, to move the cattle, to silence the roosters. They wanted the land to bend until it fit their glossy brochure, and every time we told them no. What I didn't know then was just how far they were willing to go. They sent a sympathy card after my parents died. A card with a watercolor bird on the front, and inside, in looping pen, the words, "We're so sorry for your loss. Please let us know how the HOA can support you in this difficult time." And stapled to it like a sales flyer was Karen's business card. That was the moment I realized they didn't just see me grieving. They saw opportunity. It had been a late November night, the kind when dusk falls too fast and deer get restless near the road. My dad was driving, my mom beside him, texting my sister a picture of the sunset over the west pasture. It was the last message she ever sent. A buck leapt from the ditch, and in the swerve they hit a cottonwood. They didn't make it. Grief isn't a wave for me like people say. It wasn't something that hit and receded. It was weight. Heavy air pressing down, every step harder than the last. The house echoed their names, but no one answered. I had the ranch to keep alive, the funeral to arrange, paperwork I didn't understand, cattle to feed, fences to check. My sister sat at the kitchen table for hours with coffee she never drank, staring at the door as if Mom and Dad would walk in late, apologizing for leaving the south gate unlatched. We held each other in the quiet. I remember my shirt stiff with salt from her tears. Neighbors, the real ones, brought casseroles and wood for the stove, tools for repairs. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. Silence was enough. The HOA sent that card. And then, not a week later, Karen and a polo shirt man showed up in our driveway again, this time with muffins and pamphlets. "You've lost so much," Karen said softly, folding her hands like she was at church. "Let us lighten the load. Join the HOA. We'll handle snow removal, the roads, security." The man smiled like it was a business deal. "Are you sure you can manage this place alone?" His gesture toward the barn, the fences, the pasture. It was like he was looking at clutter we hadn't cleaned. My sister's eyes went hard, the same look she gave a spooked horse. I was too tired to argue. I just said, "We can handle it." And when he pressed again, I repeated it. They left behind a glossy folder. I tossed it straight in the trash. We ate the muffins anyway. That first winter blurred together, half numb, half sharp as broken glass. Every chore became a ritual. Feeding cows Mom used to hum to, checking the fences Dad taught me to check, saddling the horse Dad trained. My sister did half the work before I even woke. We moved like if we just kept going fast enough, maybe sadness couldn't catch us. Then spring came. Calves were born. The grass turned the kind of green that feels like hope. Prairie chickens did their ridiculous mating dance in the upper field, and we sat on the pickup bed watching, laughing for the first time in months. For a little while, I thought maybe we were going to make it. But grief wasn't finished with us. The river took my sister. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't high. She wasn't running away from anything except the silence. That's what the sheriff told me. She drove too fast around the old bridge curve, maybe hit gravel, maybe braked wrong. Her truck went through the guardrail and into the black water. They pulled her out the next morning. I don't have words for what that does to a person. People say shattered, devastated, broken. None of them fit. It was like the air itself stopped working, like every breath was borrowed. The house became a tomb, the barn another tomb, and the creek, once just a line on our boundary, became unbearable to look at. The HOA sent another card. I didn't open it. Threw it in a drawer with old twine and junk mail. Meanwhile, Karen and her board drove slower past the ranch, their eyes heavy on my house, like hunters watching a wounded animal. And then muffins again, but this time with an agenda. "We're convening a special meeting," Karen said, clipboard pressed to her chest. "We want to help you. Fence maintenance, road care, security. There's been break-ins. We can handle everything for you." I'd barely slept 3 hours in 2 days. My voice was thin, but I managed. "Please go." She tilted her head, using that soft, coaxing tone. "We understand you're grieving. You don't have to do anything. We'll handle the paperwork." "Go now," I said louder. Her mouth pinched tight, but she left. That night I pushed chairs under every doorknob like I was guarding against ghosts, and in a way I was. Because that's when I realized what they saw in me. Not a neighbor, not a person grieving, but a chance. A rancher alone, weakened, easy to push. And I didn't know it yet, but their plan to take what wasn't theirs was about to get bolder. Much bolder. They said my fence encroached on their land. They said my roosters were a nuisance. They even tried to file noise complaints about cattle on a ranch that had stood for 4 generations. At first I thought it was just harassment, annoying letters, little digs, notes taped to the gate. "Your noncompliance affects us all." I could brush that off. But then the county started sending official letters. Vegetation overgrowth, untidy property. I'd clean up not for them, but because that's what you do when land gets ahead of you. Even the county inspector finally shook my hand, chuckled, and said, "It's a ranch, nothing wrong here." He was old school. He understood the difference between a nuisance and a life. But the HOA wasn't satisfied with making me roll my eyes. They wanted me exhausted, cornered. They wanted me out. I remember the day I sat in my kitchen with a stack of their letters. My dad's empty chair at the head of the table. My sister's coffee mug still sitting on the shelf untouched. And there I was, reading their demands like they owned me. So I called my lawyer. Well, a lawyer. The same guy who had helped with my parents' estate, water rights, and a cout raid deal Dad once made. He was blunt, old ranch tough under a suit. I slid the letters across his desk. He read them one by one, lips twitching like he was trying not to laugh. Then he leaned back and said, "They don't have a leg to stand on, but they can make your life miserable if you let them." I rubbed my face, tired. "They already have." "Then we make it harder for them to keep trying," he said. That's when we started putting everything on record. Every boundary, every easement, every survey. The creek line, the north fence, the road that cut along my east boundary and up to County 12. It was all privately owned by the ranch, inked in county records from the 1970s, reconfirmed in 1999 when Dad cleaned up paperwork, and filed again now in my name. Permission to use the road had always been a handshake. Neighborly. You let trucks pass, neighbors cut through, no one abuses it. But with the HOA circling like coyotes, I had to spell it out in black and white. Permission only, not right. It felt strange, writing down what had always been understood. But grief teaches you something. Paper matters. When the world won't respect you, the record will. I thought maybe that would slow them down. But grief wasn't done with me, and neither were they. It was the summer after my sister passed. I'd been sick for days, thought it was a bug, tried to tough it out. That's what we do out here, you walk it off. But I couldn't walk this off. My neighbor finally threw me into his pickup and drove me to the hospital, appendicitis. By the time the doctors cut me open, it was nearly too late. Complications kept me in for a week, high on pain meds, stitches tight across my gut. 2 neighbors watched the animals, fed them, checked the south fence, locked the gate. I thought that would be enough. But when I came home, moving slow, stitches burning, I noticed something strange by the north fence. A pile of sawdust. Fresh, sharp-smelling, the kind a chainsaw leaves behind. My stomach turned before I even saw the cut posts. 6 posts, 50 yards of wire, clean through. 4 posts shoved inward like someone had carved a new road where none existed. Scattered in the dirt, SUV tire tracks cutting dumb little chevrons across the dust. On their side, lawn chairs tipped over like they'd sat there watching. On mine, a plastic Gatorade bottle tossed aside. I bent down, picked it up, then cursed when I realized my fingerprints were now on it. I set it back, breathing hard. That's when I called the sheriff. He was the same man who had pulled my sister from the river, the one who looked me in the eye when words failed. He studied the sawdust, the posts, the tracks, then looked at me, like I was a dog kicked one too many times. He said, "We got a call last week. HOA resident claimed livestock threatened safety on the trail, said they needed emergency access." I blinked, emergency access, through my fence. He nodded slowly. "Her words said your cows looked aggressive." I almost laughed. My cows are gentle as loaves of bread. They barely bother to move unless you shake a bucket of grain. "She brought her husband with a chainsaw," he added. That was the moment I shut my eyes, because I realized, while I was lying on a hospital bed, doped up and cut open, they'd been here, trespassing, cutting through my line. "Do you want to press charges?" the sheriff asked quietly. I heard my dad's voice in my head, "Think long-term, keep the peace." I heard my mom's, "This is about the line, always the line." And my sister laughing through the years, "Try again, slowpoke." "Yes," I said, "I want to press charges." The sheriff nodded, scribbling notes, and warned me, "Fix it fast. Don't let your herd wander. They'll use it against you." That night my neighbor came over with a post driver. Didn't say a word. just slammed steel into earth like every strike was meant for someone's face. I stretched wire with one hand, stitches screaming in my side, and when the last wire pulled tight, it felt like sewing the land shut again. But I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. They came back the very next day. Not with muffins, not with sympathy, but with clipboards and crossed arms like soldiers marching into a war they thought they'd already won. Karen stood at the front, sunglasses on, her jaw sharp. Two board members flanked her, clipboards pressed tight like shields. "We created a temporary emergency access," she said matter-of-factly, "due to your aggressive livestock." I actually laughed. It came out rough, half cough, half disbelief. "You trespassed on my land, you cut my fence. You're lucky my horses didn't bolt onto County 12 and get hit by a truck." Her hand flicked in the air. "We didn't see horses, only cattle, big, aggressive ones." For a second, my brain tried to accept the lie, because sometimes lies are so brazen, your mind scrambles to fit them into reality. But no, I steadied myself. "Why didn't you call me?" She lowered her voice, delicate. "We heard you were in the hospital." That stung, the way she said it, like my absence gave her permission. "We needed to make a decision for the safety of the community," she continued. I stared. The community does not include my ranch. And then she smiled again, that same practiced empty smile. "It will, you need us." The sheriff had told her I was pressing charges. She thought it was a mistake. "It'll make you unpopular," she warned, as if popularity was my currency. I kept my voice even. "I'm already not popular with you." Her jaw flexed. "We're improving the trail system. We need creek access. Your fence is on our easement. The developer guaranteed it." I had been waiting for that one. I went inside, grabbed the folder I now kept by the door like a weapon, county plats, deeds, records, and held it up. "There is no easement. Developer can't grant what he doesn't own. This land is mine, and if you bring another chainsaw here, I'll see you in court, personally." She raised an eyebrow. "You'll sue the HOA." "No," I said, "I'll sue you by name." Something shifted in the air. Her tone dropped like a storm rolling in. "You people are ungrateful. We've maintained your road for years out of courtesy, and you can't even cut a little slack for safety." That did it. I didn't shout. I didn't raise my voice. But the words came out heavy, iron sharp. "You think you've maintained my road? That road is mine, always has been. We let you use it because we thought neighbor meant something. That ends today." I hadn't planned to say it. The words came on their own, like they'd been waiting years for breath. Her face went blank. "Excuse me." "You heard me," I said. "As of right now, the HOA and all its members are prohibited from using my road. I'm putting up signs, I'm putting up a gate, and I'm notifying the sheriff. From this day forward, you go around like everybody else." She laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "You can't do that." "I can," I said, "and I just did." Her stance stiffened, chin high. "You'll hear from our attorney." "I look forward to it," I replied. Because this time I had proof. Pictures of sawdust, tire tracks, cut posts. Her smug face standing in my driveway, practically confessing. And something inside me that had been dulled since the river, it sharpened again. A blade against stone. The next morning, I made it real. I called my lawyer, called the county to double-check the records. Then I drove into town and bought 10 massive signs, private road, no through traffic, and 8 more that read, no TRESPSSING. VIOLATORS will be PROSSUTD. The guy at the counter glanced at the pile and said, "Trouble." I said, "Nuisance." He nodded like he'd seen it before. I rented a post-pounder from my neighbor, the same one who helped fix the fence, and lined that road with signs like tombstones. Every few hundred yards, another reminder. Permission ended here. Then I ordered a heavy ranch gate wide enough for hay deliveries, set it at the mouth where our road met County 12, and chained it with a padlock. Not everyone was shut out. I made keys for the people who'd always respected the land, the farmer to the south, the old hunter who'd helped with coyotes, the retired teacher who once brought pies when Mom was sick. They had earned trust. But the HOA, they were off the list. I typed up a letter, formal, recorded, Access by permission only. Permission withdrawn from HOA members due to repeated trespass, property damage, and unlawful claims. I, the sheriff, county attorney, and my lawyer. Then I taped a copy to the gate. That first day, I sat in my truck with a thermos of coffee, watching. SUV after SUV rolled up, idled, stared at the gate, then turned awkwardly in the ditch, spitting grass and dust. The shortcut gone. One teenager in a convertible yelled, "This is public." "It is not," I shouted back. He flipped me off, then stalled his engine mid-turn. I almost laughed, almost. By noon, Karen arrived. Not alone. 3 SUVs in convoy, board members piling out. One man filming with an iPad, another scrolling on his phone like the law might show up there. Karen stood at the front, sunglasses glinting, pointing at my new gate. "What is this?" she demanded. "A gate," I said, "on my road." "You're obstructing an easement," she snapped. "Show me the recorded easement," I countered. Her lawyer stammered about prescriptive rights. I cut him off. "No, you used it by permission. That's recorded, more than once. Permission is withdrawn. It's over." Karen crossed her arms. "We will sue." "Do it," I said, "but until then, stay off my road." She tried to stare me down. I didn't flinch. I'd lost too much already to fear a clipboard. "You're making enemies," she said finally. I looked her square in the eye. "I've got enough." They left, tires spitting gravel, their SUVs crawling back to County 12 like angry beetles. And for the first time in years, my road was silent. But silence doesn't always last, and their next move was something I never expected. 2 mornings later, I woke to a sound that didn't belong. A low, steady rumble, like thunder that never moved. I pulled on my boots, stepped out onto the porch, and froze. A full-size semi-truck, red cab, chrome-polished bright, trailer stretched long, was parked sideways across my gate. Not on the county road where they might had a sliver of excuse. No, on my property. Its tires had gouged deep ruts into my ditch, the trailer blocking everything. Karen stood beside it, arms folded, a smirk carved onto her face like she'd finally checkmated me. The driver leaned out his window, cap backward, grinning. "Nice place you got here. Shame if something blocked your way." I felt my jaw tighten. "Get off my property." Karen took a measured step forward, her sunglasses reflecting me like I was just an obstacle. "We are exercising our right to protest," she announced. "You've blocked a major thoroughfare. We're making a point." I glanced at the truck, the driver, the ruts in my ditch, the locked gate behind it. For a second, I pictured hooking a chain from my tractor to the semi's bumper and seeing who'd win. But then I remembered my dad's words, "When the law is on your side, use it." So I pulled out my phone and called the sheriff. He arrived faster than I expected. Later, I figured someone had already called, maybe even one of their own who realized how stupid this was. His cruiser rolled up, dust billowing behind him. He stepped out, took off his sunglasses, and muttered, "No, no, no, not today." Karen's smirk widened. "We're protesting," she said, voice sweet as honey. "This is private property," the sheriff told her flatly. "We're on the road," she countered. He shook his head. "No, this is not a public road. It's recorded private property. Move that truck." She tried again, emergency access, community rights, safety, her lawyer's name tossed in like seasoning. But the sheriff let her words slide right past him, rain on old leather. "Ma'am," he said finally, "you are trespassing. That truck is trespassing. If you don't move it, I'll tow it. If the driver resists, I'll arrest him. If you resist, I'll arrest you." The driver, who'd been grinning, suddenly looked uneasy. "Hey, I'm just here 'cause she hired me." Karen snapped around, barked, "Don't you move that truck." He held up both hands. "I ain't getting arrested for your HOA." His engine roared to life. Karen stepped in front of the wheel, sunglasses gleaming, arms spread like she was the last defense of some great cause. The sheriff pinched the bridge of his nose, patience thinning. He signaled to his deputy, who moved in with that firm but gentle grip cops use when they want you to comply without making a scene. Karen jerked away, voice loud enough for the iPhone recording her every move. "Don't touch me. This is harassment. This is abuse. I am the president of the HOA." The deputy stayed calm. "Ma'am, you are trespassing and obstructing. Move or be arrested." She didn't move, so he cuffed her. And she went still, rigid as a fence post, like a cat that refuses to admit it's being carried. The board member with the iPhone shrieked about rights. The driver backed the truck out of my ditch with surprising grace, hauling onto County 12 without looking back. Karen sat stiff in the back of the cruiser, door shutting with that heavy thump that sounds like consequence. They didn't charge her with much. Trespass, obstruction, it could stuck, but the county attorney mumbled about community relations and de-escalation. Still, I asked for a report. Paper matters, always. Later that night, I got a text from the truck driver. An apology. He said he thought it was some political protest, didn't realize he'd be on private land. Said he wouldn't work for them again. I believed him. A man can joke about blocking a driveway, but not when it risks his CDL. 7 minutes of shortcut weren't worth his livelihood. For a moment, I thought maybe that would end it. Surely this was the line. Surely being cuffed, hauled off in front of neighbors, and plastered across Facebook videos would teach them you don't cut fences, you don't block ranch gates, you don't play games with land that isn't yours. But reason was what drove them. It wasn't reason that made Karen smirk behind sunglasses. It wasn't reason that made them write their notes and spread their lies. It was entitlement, and entitlement doesn't learn from consequence. It only looks for the next way to push. For a few days after the semi-incident, the road was quiet. Too quiet. No more diesel rumble outside my gate. No SUVs idling at the fence, headlights burning holes through the dark. Just the wind in the cottonwoods, the hum of insects at night, the low shuffle of cattle. I let myself believe, for a heartbeat, that maybe they'd finally had enough. That maybe the sight of Karen stiff-backed in the sheriff's cruiser had been enough to cool the fire. But entitlement doesn't cool, it smolders, and then it flares. It was late afternoon when I caught them. 2 board members, not the usual faces, standing inside my pasture by the horse paddock. A bucket in one hand, rope in the other. They were shaking grain, calling softly, coaxing my mares toward them like they were tamming wild ponies in a cartoon. My horses aren't dumb. They stood 5 feet back, ears turned sideways, eyes fixed on the bucket like it was a trick. I stepped out from the yard and shouted, "What are you doing?" They jolted like kids caught with their hands in the cookie jar, one plastered on a smile. "We're just checking on the animals," she said. "On my land." "We got a report," the other mumbled. "From who? On whose authority?" "The HOA," came the vague reply, like that word was supposed to unlock gates. I stared at them. "Those horses are healthy, fed, trimmed, cared for, get out." They huffed, climbing awkwardly back over the fence. One snagged her yoga pants on the barbed wire, yelping when it tore. I'll admit, I thought for just a moment, that the fence was doing God's work. That night I sat at my kitchen table, coffee gone cold in front of me, staring at the wood grain. I thought about every fence post I'd hammered, every stretch of wire my dad taught me to tighten, every boundary line we'd guarded not with anger but with care. And I realized something. Fixing fences, calling sheriffs, writing letters, it wasn't enough. Not anymore. If they were bold enough to cut chains with saws, stand in front of semis, and now try to coax my animals away, they'd try something else too. Something worse. I needed something that would hold the line when I couldn't. So I called the feed store. Ordered a unit strong enough to make anything with a nervous system think twice. I bought insulators, ground rods, and a stack of bright yellow warning signs with little lightning bolts printed on them. My neighbor came over with his truck and tools. Together we strung hot wire along the north fence where they kept crossing, one line at chest height for a human, another low for dogs. We grounded it proper, tested the voltage, and hung signs in English and Spanish every few yards, electric fence. Warning. I even put it on a timer, off at night, on at sunrise. I called the sheriff, told him what I was installing. He said, "Good, about time." I told the old hunter who roams the back pasture he knew to call me before walking through. I told the retirees who strolled their own land nearby. No surprises, everything done by the book. That night, I slept for the first time in months. Really slept. The hum of the charger outside was like a lullaby, like someone had finally turned down the noise I hadn't realized was buzzing in the background all this time. But entitlement doesn't read warning signs. 2 afternoons later, I was in the barn fixing a cracked shovel handle when my horses snorted and stomped, sharp and startled. I stepped outside. 2 men stood at the north fence. One I recognized, the polo shirt guy from months ago, the other a red-faced man with a belly straining against his belt. They were arguing, pointing, gesturing. Then Polo reached out, curious, and touched the top wire. He yelped, jerked back, shaking his hand like it had betrayed him, swore under his breath. The red-faced man grinned, puffed up, and in a move only arrogance could inspire, grabbed the wire full palm. The scream that followed echoed across the pasture. He stumbled back, fell into the grass, staring at the sky with wide, stunned eyes like he'd just discovered physics was real. Polo, not to be outdone, tapped the lower line with a finger. He cursed, hopped from foot to foot, doing a ridiculous dance, waving his hand like he could shake off electricity. I walked toward them, steady, shovel handle still in my grip. "It's electric," I said flatly. "You can't have an electric fence," Polo snapped, still rubbing his hand. I pointed at the half-dozen yellow signs inches from his face. "I can, and I do, it's legal, it's marked, it's for livestock. You touched it, that's on you." Redface staggered to his feet, cradling his hand like it might fall off. "You assaulted us," he shouted. I smiled then for the first time in days. It wasn't a kind smile. "No," I said, "physics assaulted you." They stomped off eventually, swearing, one of them muttering about lawsuits. I didn't care, because the fence had spoken for me. And I had no idea, yet just how badly that shock was about to blow up in their faces. The shock traveled farther than the fence. Not through wires, but through whispers, through Facebook posts, through every neighborhood porch where gossip runs faster than wind on the prairie. They tried to spin it first. On the HOA's Facebook page, a post went up. Local farmer installs dangerous electrified booby traps. 2 residents injured, children at risk. Booby traps, like I was some cartoon villain wiring the prairie like a set. Their wives chimed in, writing long posts about how their poor husbands had been assaulted while checking on potentially neglected animals. They called my fence criminal, unsafe, illegal. But the internet is a funny thing. The louder they shouted, the more attention they drew. And once people looked at the photos, the bright yellow warning signs in English and Spanish, the manufacturer specs I'd already emailed the sheriff, the comments turned. That's literally how electric fences work. Why were you on his side of the fence? If it's marked, it's legal. Y'all just grabbed it. Somebody even posted a picture of my warning sign next to the story. It spread fast. The HOA's own neighbors roasted them in the comments. Why were you trespassing? Why are you still after that ranch? Why do you care if a farmer's fence is electrified when your kids are safe inside their cul-de-sacs? And then came the old-timers, residents who'd moved to the development not for status, but for the view, the horizon, the open air, the rooster calls at dawn. They wrote long comments reminding everyone that the ranch had been here first, that cows weren't aggressive, that rooster's crowing wasn't a nuisance, it was life. It was the first time in years I didn't feel alone. Still, I knew better than to think their outrage would stop there. Entitlement doesn't like to be embarrassed. So I went on a fence. I had my lawyer draft formal claims. Not lawsuits yet, just claims, but on paper official. For the cut fence repairs for my time for the damage to my ditch from the semi-truck's ruts. I attached photos, estimates, copies of sheriff's reports. I the HOA's insurance company. If they wanted to play games, fine. I'd make it expensive. At first, silence. Then an adjuster called. His voice was tired like he'd seen too many of these HOA wars. "What's the minimum number we can pay to make this go away?" he asked. "The number I sent," I answered. They paid for the fence cuts in full. They balked at the ditch repair. I sent photos again, the gouged earth, the ruts deep enough to twist an axle. They caved halfway. I took it. because sometimes paper matters more than pride. And in the background, the HOA began to crack. The electric fence fiasco had made them look foolish. The semi-truck stunt had made them look reckless. Karen's arrest, filmed, posted, captioned when HOA Karen meets the real world, had gone small-town viral. People who'd once nodded at her speeches in the clubhouse now shifted in their seats, embarrassed. Flyers started appearing in mailboxes, but not from Karen's board. These were different. Plain white, black text. Restore sanity, elect leaders who won't chainsaw fences. Two challengers stepped up, a retired school principal and a landscaper with dirt still under his fingernails. Practical people. People who worked with their hands, not clipboards. Their promise was simple: no more war with the ranch. Fix traffic inside the development. Stop wasting dues on fights they couldn't win. I didn't campaign. Didn't need to. The story had already been written in sawdust and tire ruts and electric shocks. And when the votes came in, the HOA's empire cracked. Karen and her board were out. For the first time in years, my phone rang, not with threats but with an apology. A letter followed, plain and simple. We apologize for the actions of the previous board. We will cease all attempts to claim any portion of your property. We request emergency access for the fire department only. We will instruct members to stop using your road. I read it twice, then I called my lawyer. What's the catch? I asked. This, he said, is what reasonable looks like. I almost didn't remember what that felt like. But even with their apology on paper, I couldn't shake the feeling in my chest, that low hum of suspicion. After everything they'd done, after chainsaws and semis and trespassing, could I really trust them to leave the line alone? When the letter arrived, I didn't trust it at first. Too plain, too polite. No hidden clause, no clipboard language, just an apology written in black and white. We apologize for the actions of the previous board. We will cease all attempts to claim your property. We request emergency access for fire only. We will instruct all members to stop using your road. I read it once, twice, then a third time waiting for the trick. After years of fights, of trespasses, cut fences, chainsaws, and semi-trucks, could a piece of paper really mean peace? I called my lawyer. He read it slow, lips pressed thin. Then he said, "This is what reasonable looks like." I barely remember, I admitted. Me neither, he sighed. We agreed to meet, but not at the ranch. I wasn't ready to let them walk my land again. Instead, we sat in the corner booth of the coffee shop in town. Bad muffins, good coffee. The new board came in together, a retired principal with a binder tucked under his arm, and the landscaper, sun lines etched deep into his face, dirt still under his fingernails. Real people, not clipboards, not sunglasses. They didn't posture, didn't smile too wide. They just sat down, ordered black coffee, and laid it out. They wanted a fresh start. No more claims on my road, no more fights over fences. They even offered to reimburse me for ditch repairs without another round of letters, and their only request, a box on the gate so fire trucks could get through in a true emergency. They cover the cost. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was hearing neighbors, not enemies. I didn't answer right away. I told them I'd think on it, and I did, for weeks. I walked the north pasture at dusk, the same stretch where I'd raced my sister as kids, skipping rocks at the creek. The same stretch where Dad once taught me to read the sky before a storm, where Mom's voice used to call us in at supper. The land felt heavy with memory, heavy with their absence, but also steady, steady the way it had always been, holding us through joy and through loss. Finally, I called the fire chief, an old boy with the belly of someone who liked pie and the hands of a man who'd carried a hose through January blizzards. "We'd appreciate the access," he said simply. "Only for real emergencies, nothing else." That was enough for me. The box went on the gate. The fire trucks got a key, but no one else. And the principal followed through on his word. A letter went out to every HOA member. Plain language, no spin. The road was private. Permission was withdrawn. Trespassers would be reported. Period. They even posted it on Facebook. And when the old guard tried to stir it up, they shut them down. Banned the troublemakers from the group. reminded everyone the ranch wasn't the enemy. For the first time in years, the pressure eased. The electric fence still hummed, the gate still swung shut, the signs still stood like sentinels along the road. The shortcut those 7 precious minutes was gone for good, and I didn't feel bad about it. Sometimes you hold a line not out of anger, but out of love. Love for the land, for the people who built it, for the ones you lost. Now, when I stand at the north pasture and watch the sun go down, I think of my father's steady hands, my mother's intuition, my sister's laughter echoing over the creek. And I realize that maybe all along, that's what we were doing. Holding the line, one fence post at a time. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next mystery on HOA Hunter Stories.